Lama Tsongkhapa's day, naturally, I'm going to talk about Lama Tsongkhapa. So, specifically on his passing. For Vesak Day, as we all know, Vesak Day celebrates the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and passing. His passing, which means his death. So it's 3 events on one single day. Lama Tsongkhapa's day is different. Lama Tsongkhapa's day is just his passing. So today actually is the day that Lama Tsongkhapa entered into full enlightenment, and he passed away as well. Okay? So in Tibetan they call it Ganden Ngamchoe. You know, I have a little script here prepared, and I decided not really to follow it because, you know, to impress you guys that I know something. And also I like to tell stories. So when I read and I tell stories, it's no fun. So before we go into his passing, in the Tibetan tradition, Ganden Ngamchoe, or Lama Tsongkhapa's day, is celebrated like Christmas. In a monastery, what they do is they light a lot of butter lamps. All the windows like this. In the monastery, they have big, big windows as well. They'll light a lot of butter lamps all over the monastery. So the monastery, the ledges, the windows, balconies. So at night, the whole monastery will be lit up like a big giant Christmas tree. It's very beautiful, actually. And also, of course, there'll be a lot of pujas, Lama Tsongkhapa, and all sorts of pujas associated with Lama Tsongkhapa will be done. Okay, this is in memory of his passing, his great enlightenment. I'll explain later why enlightenment and passing is the same thing. Okay, Lama Tsongkhapa. Who is Lama Tsongkhapa first? He is the founder of the Gelugpa tradition, the yellow hat tradition, the tradition of the Dalai Lama. He had many students, very, very famous students, like the Dalai Lama, like the Panchen Lama, like Duzin Drapa Gyaltsen. Okay, you're like, who is Duzin Drapa Gyaltsen? Why is he so famous? Duzin Drapa Gyaltsen happens to be the previous life of Dorje Shukden. You see the big protector Buddha behind me carrying a sword? His previous life was Lama Tsongkhapa's student, Duzin Drapa Gyaltsen, and many, many more. Okay? And Lama Tsongkhapa was incredible in a sense that highly intelligent, much smarter than you and me, and extremely saintly, extremely meditative. If you, some lamas who met him as a teenager was extremely impressed. Old lamas, you know, old lamas who are learned, who are practiced, when they met Lama Tsongkhapa, they cry. Why? Because they are so impressed with his learning. They're so impressed with his explanation of the teachings, and they tear. There's one incident, because they're so impressed, and they told their students, look at this young man. He has, at his age, what were you doing? He is a learned scholar, meditator. What were you and I doing? We were very different. So he was very impressive as a young man, and he was a great debater, scholar, master of all the teachings of the Buddha. And of course, eventually he became very famous for, he wrote many things. He wrote on the esoteric teachings. Esoteric means the rare teachings on Tantra, on higher meditation, and actually he wrote more on that. But he became more famous for just one book called the Lamrim. I think if you are familiar with Kachara House and our education, you will know what I'm talking about, what book I'm talking about, the Lamrim. So his version is called the Lamrim Chenmo, which is the great stages on the path to enlightenment. So he's very famous for that. What's so special about this book? This book contains everything that the Buddha taught. in a very easy, step-by-step manner. That's why they say graduated path, meaning like step 1, step 2, step 3. From the first topic, which is death and impermanence, all the way to wisdom, higher insight, the higher teachings of the Buddha. So he makes it very easy. I think you may not agree with me. When you read the Lam Rim, some parts are very difficult, but if you put into perspective of everything that the Buddha taught into one book, it's incredible. So he was known, very, very famous for that. And then he's also very, people, you know, in the West and scholars in the West nowadays, when they study the Buddhist teachings, and especially in the Gelugpa tradition, they look at Lama Tsongkhapa, they say, oh, he's just a scholar, you know, he's just someone who teach a lot, talk about philosophy, and talk about meditation in terms of what's in the text. So he has very little meditative experience. That's what they say. But actually, that's not true. Lama Tsongkhapa has tremendous experience in meditation, and there are many proof and signs of it. Even from a very young age, when he's sick, using meditation, I repeat, using meditation, it's like he can heal himself already. He has ability. Because through meditation, it is possible to control the energies of the body, to heal the body. And this is what the Chinese use, you know, in TCM, acupuncture. That's what they do when they stick the needles in. They're manipulating the energy in your body, the energy channels. So the Chinese doctors use needles. Lama Tsongkhapa and many high lamas, they use meditation to control the energy in the body. Okay, and it's not just to heal the body, it's to control the mind as well. Many, many years, in fact 2 to 3 years before Lama Tsongkhapa passed away, Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom, who appears to him constantly in vision. Manjushri is someone that you and I cannot see right now, but if we are quite high level meditator, we might catch a glimpse of him. Okay? So Lama Tsongkhapa obviously is very high level, so he's able to see Manjushri like I'm seeing you right now. And they have conversations, and he receives teachings directly from Manjushri. So Manjushri predicted and said that you're going to die now. Your time is up, told Lama Tsongkhapa. And then immediately all the Buddhas are said to have appeared to Lama Tsongkhapa to bless him to live longer. And then finally, after the blessing, Manjushri gave another prediction that his life is extended. And soon after that, not just before he passed away, what happened was one of his teeth fell out. These are all magical stories. Let me tell you a little magical stories from Lama Tsongkhapa that prove for who he is. When his tooth fell out, he gave it to one of his heart disciples called Gelugpa. Gelugpa is the previous life of the Panchen Lama. The Panchen Lama, if you didn't hear me through the echo. Okay? So then when the other students heard about it, they were not really happy, and they requested Lama Tsongkhapa, we also want your blessing. We also want your relics. So Lama Tsongkhapa told Gelugpa, put the tooth on the altar and cover it. And then do prayers every single day. And he gave the specific prayers to do. So every day they did prayers for up to a week. Then on the 7th day, Lama Tsongkhapa told Gelugpa, where's my tooth? So Gelugpa opened the cover. His tooth transformed into a statue of Tara and many relics. So from that, he gave the relics to his students. That's one of the miraculous signs. And because of that incident, Lama Tsongkhapa predicted that his remains will event 500 years from his time, his passing, it will be brought over to India. And it came true. Because why is it brought over to India? Tibet was taken over by China, and the monks brought the Lama Tsongkhapa's relics to India. Okay? Then, just before he passed away, on the day before, he came back from another monastery to give teachings, and upon arrival, he immediately went to the main temple of Ganden. Ganden Monastery is the monastery of Tsem Rinpoche, our Tsem Rinpoche, and it's also one of the 3 largest Gelugpa monasteries in Tibet. And they have a huge prayer hall, big, massive one. And then, upon arrival, after traveling, he immediately went to the main prayer hall and made offerings, Toma offerings. He requested his students to make Tomas. What are Tomas? Those ritual cakes, if you see during puja, that was offered, red in color, that's Toma. Those are cakes made of specific ingredients to reflect the meditation. There's a meaning to it. It's not just the Tibetan monks started to become, chefs, creative. They didn't, because they're creative, they make all the funny shapes. The shapes, the color, the decoration has meaning in Buddhist meditation. Okay? So he offered Thomas to the Buddhas, and then he retired. And then during meal time, in the middle of a hall where the monks gathered to eat, so you imagine thousands of monks gathered together. There are about a few thousand monks in the monastery. And while they were eating, he came in unannounced, and he started a dedication prayer. The prayer is to be reborn in Tushita, to be reborn in Ganden. And he prayed very long, very hard, and standing in front of the monks. And then all the monks, of course, dare not eat, so they also pray along with him out of respect for him. And then they all felt that he is going to pass away already. So some of his close students, after that, followed him to his room. There's a student called Gelugpa, followed him, along with Dozin Drapa Gelsen, along with Kejurje. And they had audience with Lama Tsongkhapa, and they were requesting to live long. Finally, the last thing that was said was, Gelugpa asked Lama Tsongkhapa, can you give your final words of advice? And as he said that, he was tearing. He was very sad. And what Lama Tsongkhapa did was, he took the pandit's hat, the pointed hat that you see on statues, and he put it in his lap. And he said, understand my meaning in doing this. So what he was effectively doing was, he was passing the throne, his teaching throne, his authority to his students. And then that night, he asked for what we call in the Buddhists call inner offering. It is a special liquid that is used in tantric meditation. So he offered 32 times, and he did meditation the whole night. Just before dawn, it was time. And he did not sleep, of course. He got dressed. He put on his full robes. For a Buddhist monk, there are 3 sets of robes. You have the shantap, which is the skirt, the monk's skirt. The monk dongka, which is the monk's shirt. Okay? There's no sleeves one. And then there's the zen, which is like a shawl, the red shawl. And then there is the chogyu, which is the long shawl that is yellow in color. The yellow color shawl is cut into squares and sewn together one. You might recognize, next time if you don't know what I'm talking about, please notice this. When you look at some pictures of monks, Usually the yellow part of the robe is used in official like pujas and ordination, and when your guru is around, it's for what do you call it? Official occasions. So he put on all 3 sets of robes, and he sat down in full meditation, and he passed away. As he passed away, there was many miraculous signs. There were rainbows. It's quite incredible. Rainbows appearing from his room. In fact, the whole night, and as they say in the story, the whole night, his attendant monks saw lights coming out of his room. The whole night it was bright. There were lights, there was rainbow, there was a slight tremor. They usually say earthquake lah, but it's not, it's not like 9.0 on the Richter scale and Kobe earthquake and the buildings all crash. It's not that kind of earthquake. It's a very light tremor. And usually what it means is a very important holy being is either taking birth or passing. And then there were flowers from the sky raining down. They say that the flowers are from the heavens, from the celestial beings, welcoming the Lama into their realm. So they will rain those flowers down, and those are special signs. And for Lama Tsongkhapa, as he passed away, he became younger. All his wrinkles disappeared. No need Botox. Disappeared, all smoothed. He became younger and younger, like a 16-year-old. And what was happening? The Lamas explained. He was in a special meditation, and he became fully enlightened in the Bardo. What's Bardo? Bardo is the intermediate state between this life and the next life. The intermediate state. Let me repeat. The intermediate state between this life and the next life. These 2 lifetimes. It's called the Bardo. And that's the time when, you're like a spirit, you wander back and forth. And during that time, he entered into full enlightenment. And because of that, his body became younger. All the all the wrinkles became smoothed. And became like a 16-year-old. And when he passed away, his body did not decompose. So the body remained from the 15th century. You know when it's 15th century? 14-something. 1400. From the 1400s all the way to the 20th century, for 600 years, it remained fresh. It dried up a little bit, of course, but it did not decompose. And his hair and nails continued to grow. So for someone like him in the Tibetan tradition, it's very meritorious to make offerings and to preserve. So what they do is they put the entire body into a stupa. You know that's called a stupa. They put inside a stupa to preserve his remains. And unfortunately, during the Chinese takeover, they burned the body. So the Lamas, what they did was, when they were burning, they took pieces of his ashes and unburned parts of his body, and they brought it into India. And that fulfilled the prophecy that Lama Tsongkhapa gave. Okay? My point in telling you this story is to tell you the significance of how he passed away. Death in the Buddhist tradition is very important for all of us, but normally most people consider it pantang to talk about. Okay? When I first met Rinpoche, our Rinpoche, Tsem Rinpoche, he told me that, because I saw a funeral pass by. I mean, to me, I didn't think it's pantang or anything, but I know it was not auspicious lah. You don't go around and say, oh, it's auspicious to see a funeral. You never say that. So what Rinpoche said to me was, oh, it's very good luck for you. I was like, why? So Rinpoche explained one thing. In our lives, very few things in our lives remind you that you will one day die. Very few things. So it is auspicious because it reminds you that one day you will pass. And Rinpoche also, in another teaching, not the same teaching, said that why Buddhism always talk about death? Why? Why so morbid? No, it's not about morbid. It's because when you think and prepare for your death, it changes you. It transforms you. It makes you focus on the right things, what's important in life. Because most of us lead our lives like we will live forever. We don't prepare. In fact, what Rinpoche always tells in his Dharma talks is, all the food that we eat does not prepare you. All the clothes, the beautiful clothes that you buy, does not prepare you for your death. All the jobs that you do, the school that you go, not a single lesson prepares you when you're going to die. It does not. It does nothing at all for you. In fact, most people die unprepared, and they die fearful and scared. Lama Tsongkhapa and many monks in a monastery die happily, prepared. Some maybe have no meditation, but they have done a lot of Dharma, so when they die, they are happy and satisfied and they go to a good place. Some who are attained, they die in full meditation. And what does that mean in full meditation? What does that mean really? It's like so show off like that. No, the attained monks are not showing off. The monks are doing special meditation. So they choose where they go. Don't you want that? Don't you want to prepare yourself? All of us prepare for our old age. All of us do. All of us prepare by working very hard, doing either business, working in jobs to prepare, saving up, buying a house, having investments, having a business. We all prepare. But you know, what Rinpoche said is when we save up all that money, what happens is we're going to die anyway. And the money does nothing for you. In fact, for many people who are greedy, who are very attached to money, it becomes a problem at death. Why is it becomes a problem? Why? It's because when you die, it's very chaotic. Your mind is very chaotic. You're scared. You're worried for your loved ones. You're worried for your money. You work so hard, 40, 50 years. You know how many people, the moment they retire, they pass away. So, you know when you pass away, you don't think that you go into a sleep, you know. You're not going to a sleep. You are fully conscious. It's just that you enter into a state that is very scary because you cannot feel, you cannot see anymore, you cannot touch, you cannot taste anymore. That's the problem. So that feeling is very scary because you have never experienced that in your life. And it all happens suddenly. And when it happens, a lot of your fears come to you. And during that time, let me tell you something. When you fear and you you worry too much, or you worry about your money, you worry about your family, you worry about your loved ones, you worry, and then they are crying. And you know what? During that time when you're no longer in your body, you can still feel what they feel. You can still somewhat a bit see what's going on. You can feel the emotions, and then they're crying some more. It makes you even more scared. So in Buddhism, that is considered very, it makes your attachments become stronger. And then, you know what? The karma will pull you to a negative rebirth. So in the end, all your life working for that money, having the family, having loved ones around you, become your undoing. Means it becomes something not so good for you. So, what do? We do Dharma. We learn. First thing is, if you are not very new to all this, you study the Dharma. You learn. You study the Lamrim. You go for teachings. You read Dharma books. And then I know some of us are, we're not intellectuals. When you pick up the Dharma book on emptiness, oh, so chim. You read the first paragraph, you fall asleep. Like some of us, I think I see some people going to fall asleep now. So it's so chim. You don't have to read those Dharma books. There are many, many Dharma books that helps you with your mind. When you do Dharma, when you understand what it means by doing Dharma first, you have to learn what it means. It's to transform your mind. It is to prepare you. Because when you do Dharma, it's the only thing that you can bring to your next life. The only thing. So that's why it's so important. And that's why in Buddhism we celebrate death. And today we're actually celebrating a death of someone who has total control. And we celebrate it because it reminds us of our own death. It reminds us to prepare. It doesn't matter how young you are. Rinpoche also say, don't think just because you are young, you have a lot of years ahead of you. Because there's a lot of people who die young. My mom passed away 2 years ago, and she was put in Xiao En. There is a funeral ground. And then the place where they inter her ashes, I look at all the pictures. This one time I was just, I was grieving as well for my mom. I was sad, I was down, so I was just looking, I was just trying to distract myself. So I look at all the pictures, and I look at all the people who passed away. 1/3 of the people I see on the funeral is young people. 1/3. I see a lot of young people. Just because you are young doesn't mean you will live to your old age. You never know nowadays. But of course, you'll tell me, but nowadays there's a higher chance, with advancement in medicine, there's SJMC, there is, all these great hospitals, there's all these great specialists. Yes, but it didn't help them. It didn't help my mom also. My mom is not that old, when she passed away. She was only in her 61 in fact. So that's, I end this part, and I was also told to explain to you a little bit about Migtsema. And Migtsema, sorry, it's a different tone. Suddenly I talk about death and then talk about Migtsema. So Migtsema is, what is Migtsema? Migtsema is Lama Tsongkhapa's mantra. And the mantra has an unusual story. Migtsema, the origin of it is unusual. Lama Tsongkhapa received many teachings from Manjushri. And Manjushri appeared to him like a vision. Brilliant. The scars are flying. He's got halo. He's carrying a sword. He carries a Dharma text on lotus. And he's young, beautiful to look at. And when you stare at him in that form, he's dazzling to look. He's so beautiful, It captivates your eyes. And he gave teachings to Lama Tsongkhapa. And one of the teachings, Lama Tsongkhapa took and rewrote it and offered it to his guru, Jetsun Rendawa, one of his teachers. And Jetsun Rendawa received that praise. It was written on a piece of paper. And then he took it and he said he felt it didn't apply to him. He felt it applied more to Lama Tsongkhapa. So he changed the words back and gave it to Lama Tsongkhapa, referring to Lama Tsongkhapa instead. That verse that was given back to Lama Tsongkhapa became what is known as Migtsema. Okay? So what is it? It's 5 lines. The main form, there's other forms that are longer, but the main form is 5 lines. It praises Lama Tsongkhapa as Manjushri. It praises Lama Tsongkhapa as Kuan Yin. It praises Lama Tsongkhapa as Vajrapani, 3 Buddhas. Like 3 in 1 shampoo. So this is not shampoo, of course. This is a very sacred mantra that we recite, that some of you who are staying back to recite. It's very powerful. You know why it's powerful? You are praising three Buddhas, three energies as in Lama Tsongkhapa. Compassion, Guan Yin. Wisdom, Manjushri. Vajrapani is power. Imagine having the power of the Buddhas. So what do you get from compassion, wisdom, and power? Your mind will be stable. Your mind will have less problems. Stability of mind is power. You will have less anger because of compassion. You will have less depression. You know, people are depressed. Actually, depression is very, very prevalent nowadays as people become more affluent, more wealthy. Depression is very, very big nowadays. Unbeknownst to you and me, the statistics are quite high for people who are depressed, people unhappy, people who delve into many, many things, materialism, out of depression. Some even want to commit suicide out of depression. So Lama Tsongkhapa has a very powerful blessing to heal depression, but provided they must recite the mantra on a daily basis and have faith, and it will slowly heal them. And then also, there are many other blessings, like power of the Buddhas is also to chase away negative interferences, spirit problems, black magic, etc., etc. And most important, or rather for many older people, when you recite a lot of Migtsema, you heal your body, you extend your life. I was told by a Tibetan man, I met some Tibetan lamas, and then I met an old Tibetan man. He's not a lama, you know, he's not a monk, but he's a lay person, and he is someone in his 80s, I remember, and he's incredible because, you know what, I was asking a few questions, and then he ended up talking to me for like 4 or 5 hours. He was talking, and he has so much energy, you know, and I was feeling more and more tired as the time goes by. And then in the end, just before I left, he told me that the secret of his vitality, of his health, is he recites a lot of Migtsema. He told me 1,000 Migtsemas a day. And he said he's extremely healthy. And I was like, okay, you must be, because, you know, because I as a younger person, half his age, could hardly keep up, even less than half his age. So, and he said that in Tibet, a lot of the older people recite Migtsema, the older people, because it helps them, keep and be healthy. So there's a little secret I'm sharing with you. And there's a lot more which you can read, but these are the main ones. Okay? So I've told you the benefits, I told you the origin, and I told you the significance of why we're celebrating Lama Tsongkhapa's Day. What is Lama Tsongkhapa's Day? Okay? And any questions? Just to repeat Carmen's question, she's asked me about Buddha Shakyamuni's prediction of a little boy, a little Indian boy. And this is apparently in the scriptures that predicted the birth of Lama Tsongkhapa. Am I right? It is said that in a book called The Root Tantra of Manjushri, that during Lama Tsongkhapa's time, there was this Indian boy who came up to him and offered a crystal mala. You know, mala is the prayer beads. So he offered the crystal mala to the Buddha, and the Buddha predicted that he will be reborn in the land of snows, and he will proliferate the teachings. And to seal his prediction, he told one of his disciples, the Buddha's disciples called Mahamoggallana, who had psychic powers, to travel to the land of snows and bury a conch shell. Conch shell is a shell, basically. So what happens is, he said that that will be the place where he will re-establish the Buddha's teachings. So when they were building Ganden Monastery, and you know who built Ganden Monastery? Dozin Drapa Gyaltsen. Dorje Shukden himself, and in the form of a Lama. He was a student of Lama Tsongkhapa, and Lama Tsongkhapa in his old age found it difficult to travel. You know, in Tibet, it's huge. It's so far to go one end to another. And he was so famous, people calling him to here, calling him there. And he had to travel on horseback and on yaks. And some places he had to walk because it's up in the mountains. And Tibet is mountainous. So in his old age, he had rheumatism. It was not easy for him to travel. So his students, out of compassion and for him to retire and make it easy for him to teach, established Ganden Monastery. And when they were building Ganden Monastery, they unearthed this conch shell. And if you go to Ganden Monastery today, it is there on display actually. They say that's the conch shell that was unearthed, that was predicted by the Buddha. It was put by the Buddha there. So the main contribution of Lama Tsongkhapa actually was to proliferate a special teaching of the Buddha on emptiness, that many students who follow his teachings gain realization, gain enlightenment faster. So his tradition became extremely big. The Gelugpa tradition became the biggest school of Tibetan Buddhism in Tibet, because Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings made it faster for many people to gain attainments. And he was very pure and exemplary. Many people will admire him for his pure, because he's such a pure monk. Okay, so I'm just giving you a little story to tell you that even during the Buddha's time, there was a prediction about the coming of Lama Tsongkhapa. Okay, that was the question that she asked.
Migtsema 대신 체내시 dreaming 캠페인 홍보 장배양 두고 마유 정세 상회다 간진 개별 추진 종가바 로산 트라비 샤바 송원데